So imagine a place where you can actually stand right beneath the towering shadow of K2, drive along the literal edges of the legendary Karakoram Highway, and experience what is, without a doubt, one of the world's greatest living landscapes. Well, welcome to The Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because we're embarking on a journey that's going to completely take your breath away. We're heading into a region where rich human history, raw adventure, and just utterly untouched nature all collide in the best way possible. Think of this explainer as your ultimate explorer's blueprint for Gilgit Baltistan. Nestled way up in the northernmost territory of Pakistan, this really isn't just a travel destination. It's this incredibly immersive, almost cinematic experience. Over the next few minutes, we're going to decode the whole shebang: the geography, the history, the culture, and even the practical travel logistics of this majestic region. So if you're the kind of person who loves to really understand what makes a place tick before you even start packing your bags, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's dive into this. Our expedition today covers four main pillars. First, the roof of the world. Second, the ultimate cinematic journey. Third, culture of the high mountains. And finally, the modern expedition. Part 1, the roof of the world, where mighty mountain ranges collide. Right, before we even start talking about destinations, we really have to wrap our heads around the sheer, mind-boggling geographical scale we're dealing with here. You honestly can't understand Gilgit Baltistan without understanding the stone and ice that built it. It's literally the only place on Earth where three mighty mountain ranges smash together: the Karakoram, the Himalaya, and the Hindu Kush. And guys, these aren't just hills. We're talking towering peaks, massive snow-covered summits, and ancient glaciers. This rugged, high-altitude terrain has historically dictated everything, from human survival and trade routes to literal empire building. The land itself is the main character here. Let's see how all this builds over time, because these shifting landscapes really set the stage for thousands of years of human history, starting way back with ancient Silk Road merchants and local legends of Alexander the Great, moving through some really deep Tibetan and Persian influences. We see this fascinating, rich tapestry of Buddhism transitioning into Islamic history, which is then followed by 19th century British exploration, all the way up to present-day modern Pakistan. Historical evidence really suggests that the harsh geography of those three mountain ranges we just talked about shaped every single aspect of how these civilizations evolved, traded, and ultimately survived. And speaking of that extreme geography, here's a number that's going to literally make you catch your breath: 8,000 meters. Gilgit Baltistan is home to some of the absolute highest peaks on the planet, including K2 and Nanga Parbat, which pierce the sky at over 8,000 meters. I mean, it's essentially a high-altitude desert up there. The air is super thin, the environment is incredibly extreme, and frankly, just thinking about the lack of oxygen at that altitude kind of makes me want to take a deep breath right now. But it's exactly this altitude that creates the raw, untouched magic of the region. Moving on to part 2, the ultimate cinematic journey. Let's map out this chronological route. So now that we've got a handle on the macro geography, let's look at the actual path you take through this epic landscape. Your journey usually kicks off with a super dramatic flight into Gilgit, which immediately throws you right onto the legendary Karakoram Highway. From there, the route winds north up into the Hunza Valley, famous for its ancient forts. Then it pivots over towards Skardu and its stunning alpine lakes, before finally pushing into the deep, wild, unforgiving territory of K2 and the massive glaciers. It is basically a masterclass in escalating natural beauty. Now, what's really interesting about this part of the journey is that in the Hunza Valley, history and nature put on an absolute show for you. You'll pass these gorgeous traditional wooden homes in Karimabad, all overlooked by the ancient Baltit and Altit forts that have guarded the valley for centuries. And then the environment shifts drastically. Suddenly you're looking at the striking, vibrant turquoise waters of Atabad Lake and those jagged, totally majestic Passu cones. Oh, and if you have the nerve for it, and I mean real nerve, you can cross the swaying Husseini suspension bridge before driving all the way up to the high-altitude Kunjarab Pass right at the Chinese border. As you keep going, the route kind of splits into two vastly different experiences. Over in Skardu, you're greeted by the sweeping, high-altitude plains of Diosai National Park, crystal-clear alpine lakes like Kachura, and these beautifully restored royal forts in Shigar and Kaplu. But contrast that with Fairy Meadows. That area is completely defined by lush, green alpine forests that lead right up to the raw, profound silence of the Nanga Parbat base camp. So Skardu gives you that rich royal history, while Fairy Meadows offers the super intimate, almost haunting encounter with a killer peak. And then, for those who want to push this expedition to its absolute limits, you reach the Great Ice Rivers, the Baltoro, Biafo, and Hispar glaciers. Listen, these aren't just patches of ice. These are roaring glacial rivers, vast, frozen highways carving their way right through the Karakoram. The sheer, immense scale of trekking up the Baltoro Glacier toward Concordia, which is the nexus of the world's highest peaks, is one of those rare experiences that just strips away all the modern noise and leaves you entirely, completely in awe of nature's power. Which brings us to part 3, Culture of the High Mountains, the living, breathing soul of Gilgit Baltistan. Because, the landscape is only half the story here, and this brilliantly illustrates how the cultural identity is built on incredibly unique language and cuisine. Because these valleys were isolated by those massive mountains for millennia, an astounding diversity of languages like Shina, Borshaski, Balti, Waki, and Kwawar developed completely on their own and have been preserved for centuries. And to survive that harsh landscape, the locals created this rich, hearty, amazing culinary tradition. We're talking meat-filled chopped churro, dumplings called mamtu, hearty bale soup, and this mind-blowing array of apricot products. They've literally turned a harsh, freezing environment into a vibrant gastronomic tradition. And that energy, it spills right over into their daily lives. These mountain communities are incredibly vibrant. Picture colorful bazaars buzzing with artisans selling carved wood, local gemstones, and these beautifully handcrafted carpets. And they celebrate fiercely, from the famous, totally adrenaline-pumping freestyle polo festivals at places like Shandor Pass to Navros and huge harvest celebrations. Through their traditional clothing, the weddings, the local music, and their rich storytelling, you really get to see a community that perfectly preserves its ancient traditions, all while welcoming visitors with completely open arms. Finally, part 4, the modern expedition, how we actually prepare for this adventure. Of course, to pull a trip like this off, you really need to match your ambition with your preparation. If you want to stick to cultural tours and jeep safaris, that requires relatively low physical prep, which is perfect for just comfortably taking in the history and those jaw-dropping views. Now, if you're looking into hiking and wildlife photography, you're looking at a medium prep level. You definitely need decent fitness, and you have to be aware of the altitude. But if you are eyeing the Concordia trek or actual mountaineering, that is high prep territory. You need rigorous physical training, specialized gear, and some very serious acclimatization strategies. So, the crucial point is that logistics are absolutely everything here. Timing your visit for spring blossoms or autumn foliage completely changes your experience, not to mention the landscape's entire color palette. You've got to research the road conditions of the Karakoram Highway and figure out local transport. You'll definitely need to secure government permits for any restricted areas, and you have to carefully plan your itinerary to manage altitude sickness safely. I mean it, you simply cannot rush acclimatization. But the good news? The region now really caters to everyone. It offers everything from basic camping and budget guest houses right up to luxury resorts. And yes, you can even get internet connectivity in the major hubs now. But we have to remember, with that access comes a lot of responsibility. Leave only footprints. The environment and the local communities of Gilgit Baltistan are super fragile. Sustainable tourism isn't just some corporate buzzword up here. It's absolutely essential for the survival of the region. This means respecting the local customs, packing out your waste, actively supporting the local economy by hiring local guides, and crucially, following photography etiquette. Always ask before taking photos of people, especially in the more traditional villages. We want this incredible landscape to remain pristine for generations to come, right? So we've traversed the roof of the world, traced ancient Silk Road routes, met the incredibly warm people of the mountains, and outlined the ultimate blueprint for your journey. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Just look at the sheer scale of what we've uncovered today. Which hidden valley of this ultimate living landscape are you going to explore first? Are you going to wander the ancient forts of Hunza? Or are you going to test your mettle out on the freezing ice of the Baltoro Glacier? The mountains are waiting. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today, and hey, happy exploring!